What's up, guys? I've given you my top 10 favorite horror movies of the past decade. Now let's do my top 10 favorite non-horror movies. Let's do this. What's up, guys? This was a very tough list to put together. Before I get into this, you'll see I'm wearing kind of a modified F Off Wade t-shirt. Wade is a character that Killer Flicks we kind of obsess over. Or just a few of us. Remember in Halloween 4, he's the guy that Kelly Maker's dad didn't scare him, so he bet $10, and then she told him, F off Wade.
Hey, Wade, why don't you go ahead and make your move?
Don't rush me, Brady. Timing's gotta be primo.
He's not gonna do it. Chicken.
Her daddy don't scare me.
Fuck off, Wade.
So, yeah, anyway, got a t-shirt here. If you want to get one, there's a link right here. Go over there and go to the Drumdums spreadshirt and get you one. Anyway, this was a very tough list to put together. I'm going to give you one honorable mention, and that honorable mention is going to be Warrior. This movie really surprised me because it deals with the MMA, but the MMA is just really a byproduct of the movie. It's really about the struggle of two brothers, you know, who split off in life, and they both eventually became MMA fighters. They have very different lives, but the acting and the heart in this movie is so profound that it's just undeniable. And Tom Hardy and Nick Nolte, those two actors give performances that are just jaw-dropping. And out of this whole list, I'd say this movie really pulls at your heartstrings the most. Okay, number 10, Mad Max Fury Road. Who would have thought that the fourth Mad Max movie would be this damn good? But, I mean, if you want just a full-on adrenaline rush of a movie with some of the best automotive action, look no further than this. I have never been so excited and had my heart just pound so fast during a movie. And George Miller, I'm so glad that he directed this, though. And it's a risky proposition to replace Mel Gibson as Max, but Tom Hardy does a decent job. But really, I think the scene stealer in this is Charlize Theron. But this is one of those movies that it feels like it just flies right by. I mean, most of the movie is just getting from point A to point B. And all these crazy characters along the way. These are some of the most psychotic yet memorable characters I've ever seen. Immortan Joe. And everybody just wants to go to Valhalla. Number 9, Nightcrawler. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is probably one of the best actors we've had working in this last decade. Everything he puts out is very interesting. And you can tell that the guy likes to take roles that are challenging and even physically challenging. He lost a lot of weight to do this role, but this might be one of my favorite characters of the last decade. There was just something about the way he played this character that was so interesting, and you couldn't take your eyes off of him, you know, just because of the way he looked, the way he acted. And I like villains that aren't that pronounced, you know, because there's sometimes when you kind of relate to the guy, you like the guy, but you know in the back of your mind, he's not a good guy at all. And he'll do anything to succeed. He's kind of the definition of like a narcissist. Number 8, Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive. One thing I loved so much about Drive is just how quiet it was. It was one of those movies that not a lot is said through the characters, but so much is said, you know? There's scenes where a driver, he's looking at Irene and not a word is said. But there's this just like buildup of tension throughout the movie. And in terms of like violence, there's not that much of it in this movie, but when there is, it really packs a punch. And Nicholas Winding Refn, he's hit and miss for me, but this movie I think is so good. He doesn't get too artsy with it. He lets the story take the wheel, no pun intended, and it's just so satisfying. And talk about one of the most intense third acts too I've seen of this last decade. Number 7, Joker. The thought that anybody could top what Heath Ledger did in The Dark Knight's Joker, I would have bet against it. I didn't think it could happen. Now, Joaquin Phoenix, of course, he's proven himself as an amazing actor. And boy, does he in this movie. Now, to be fair, he had 2 hours to hone his character, and he makes it his own. This is a very different character than the Joker that we saw in The Dark Knight. But there's moments in this movie, too, that just look painful when he's trying to, like, deliver the laugh, and you can tell that his voice is just going. You know, this is an actor that gave his all to a character. And at the end of the day, this is just a silly comic book character. But he makes the Joker one of the most terrifying characters of the year. And one can't deny that very last scene with the Joker and Robert De Niro, where he shoots him right in the head. Didn't expect that stuff, even though you know it's the Joker and he would do something like that. Because of how real this movie felt, it was still shocking. Number 6, this is going to surprise you, Batman v Superman. I'm going to give the ultimate cut its due in this one, though. I think the ultimate cut is a fully realized vision. I still loved the movie when I saw it in the theater. And it's one of those very divisive movies, but I am finding throughout time that people are starting to come around to Batman v Superman for how unique it was and how it kind of turned the superhero conventions on its head. And it even had some like political moments throughout. You know, it wasn't a movie where Batman and Superman were physically fighting for half the movie. No, this wasn't that type of movie at all. This was a drama, really, a big like character study on these two characters, because Batman and Superman are two very different characters. And to me, it's kind of baffling that people don't love this movie as much as they do. Yes, it's long. I mean, the ultimate cut's 3 hours long, but I've never bored once. There's just so much to chew on in this movie. And I'm really hoping Henry Cavill comes back for Man of Steel 2. Number 5, why not continue the trend? Infinity War. I am not the biggest fan of Endgame, but Infinity War, I thought, gave me everything that I could possibly want in a superhero movie. There are so many sequences throughout this movie where you're just like, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I mean, you Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, all these characters in the same frame. It just is so big. I mean, if you want a big, crazy superhero movie, this is definitely the one to go with. But also, there's some very emotional moments throughout this movie. The stakes are massive. You know, this is where it all comes to a head. And that ending, I remember sitting in the theater and just this big collective gasp throughout the theater. It was insane. Number 4, Creed. I am such a massive Rocky fan, and I thought after Rocky Balboa, which was a great proper send-off for the character, I rolled my eyes when I heard that they were making Creed at first. I didn't believe in it. And then I saw this movie and I was just floored by how great it was. Ryan Coogler, this guy who was just this huge fan of actually Rocky 2, he wanted to make his own Rocky movie and he pitched the idea to Stallone, and the rest is history. But Creed is so well directed and gives new life to this franchise. You know, making the character of Rocky a side character, but he's still extremely important. And I still got those goosebumps every time I saw him training Adonis. You know, I mean, if you want goosebumps, this movie has probably the most. But also musically, you know, you get a little bit of that Rocky music, but also this has its own score, and it's kind of like Creed's score as opposed to Rocky's score. And of course, the one-take fight in the middle of the movie. This movie just really shocked the hell out of me. One of the most surprising movies of the year for me. Number 3, a movie I just reviewed that definitely belongs on this countdown, Parasite. I have never been so refreshed by a movie as this. I mean, South Korean cinema is really the gift that just keeps on giving, and it's so unique and so different than what we get over here. And of course, we get some great stuff over here, but it's like they look at movies from a different angle over there or something. I just loved all the characters in this and how it presented some interesting thoughts about, you know, the divide between the rich and the poor, and how far good people will go to make it in life. You know, because these are very likable characters who are doing, let's face it, bad things. But in the end, it was such a profound movie and definitely had like a full story arc. The second half was very unpredictable as opposed to the first half. Number 2 is Damien Chazelle's Whiplash. In terms of characters in movies, I think this might be one of the strongest. Every time J.K. Simmons is on screen, my jaw just completely dropped to the floor. How commanding and how intimidating he was to Miles Teller's character throughout this. This was an intense movie. I am a drummer, but the reason I love this movie is not because of the drumming, which is amazing, by the way. And it does add to the flavor of the movie, of course. I mean, I love movies about music, but no, this is about the characters and the, you know, the drama throughout the movie. In terms of intensity, I think Whiplash really takes the cake. There's nothing more intense than this movie. And there aren't any like big action sequences or anything like that. It's a character drama, but intense as hell. And then number 1, Blade Runner 2049. I can't believe that almost 40 years later we get a new Blade Runner movie. And what Denis Villeneuve gave us with this movie was something so unique. Even though it's a sequel, this movie is very different than the first movie. And it really focuses on Ryan Gosling and his relationship with, let's face it, pretty much AI technology. And you actually bought this relationship between him and this girl. It's crazy that I see more chemistry between these two characters than any flesh and bone characters throughout the year. There were some really strong moments in this movie, and they don't even present Deckard until like the last act of the movie. But you know, in terms of just a production and how big this movie felt, and you know, this felt like a journey, but it was massive. Visually, it's insane looking. I mean, really, all of Denis Villeneuve's movies are like that. They're just visually striking. And what better property to take advantage of that than Blade Runner? So anyway, guys, that's my top 10 favorite non-horror movies of the decade. Post in the comments your favorites. Looking forward to seeing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.